it's not typically for only cloud sessions. So it's a session that we've coined for us to improve our conversation. We want to be able to speak to each other. So that's why we created this session. And for our first session, we'll be talking matters cloud. So it's not relatively related to cloud only. We'll be having even motivation Thursdays. And it's not for only the co-founders of Resource Cloud Academy. If you think that you have something to share with us, the door is open. So for today's session, we'll be having Samson Onjala. He is he's our tech lead at Spartech Consortium. He is also our operations manager here at Resource Cloud Academy, overseeing that all the operations run smoothly. And he is also a network engineer. This guy knows almost everything. So having some time to listen to him is really great. And before we kickstart our session, we cannot start this session without a honorable mention for the presence of the one and only Mr. Bruno Kibali. Thank you for attending our session. And if you can unmute and say hi to the people, that would also be appreciated. Bruno.
Yes, hi everyone. It's a pleasure being here. I was hoping to be in the background, meeting with staff, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
Really appreciate you guys taking the time to just have these conversations with everyone else on what's going on in the industry. I think it's important.
Yep.
And I'm just happy to be here to listen in and also pick a thing or two from the conversation today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And also, so ZP also mentioned something. He coined like a question. He said that we should come prepared to at least say something about what we've learned about the cloud. And I'll start off. So for me, I've learned that the cloud is something so great. Like you can provision very powerful computers, but running on your poor computer. You can have very great operations running on your, like, for example, I have my computer, which is likely to have less specifications, but I want to run a very high specs computer. I can just provision it using a VM through the internet. And that's basically what I've been able to learn and much more. So I'll delegate the role to Sam. So Sam, welcome to our today's session. What's and why the cloud? Thank you.
Okay, as Samson is preparing to come over, okay, I guess when he is ready, he'll just share his screen and start as we give him time to set up. For me, what I've learned about the cloud, maybe to share on my part, I can say it in a simpler way, but I hope some will put it in a more simpler way for others to understand. To me, clouds, the way you have said about cloud is in a way in which you can access computer services through the internet. These computer services ranges from computing, storage, database, anything that you can think of that exists on-prem can also be done on cloud. So I guess that is how I can define it. Okay, so Sam, when you're ready, just share your screen and start.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Albert. As Sam gets ready for the session, we can just have anybody state what they've learned about the cloud, what they know about the cloud, anything that they feel to sharing, that will be appreciated. Anyone? You can even state the cloud are located in the skies. It doesn't matter.
For me, I'll say I think the cloud is the cloud is the future. Like if you take a key notice right now. So I'm saying the cloud is the future. Like in terms of digital transformation and all that, you realize that a lot of people are getting to access the internet. If it's SACCOS, there'll be a lot of people who will access the website of such SACCOS. And what cloud does is instead of these circles having their physical servers, the physical servers, they're just hardwares that are used to store maybe some application and some data from the users. And remember, as users keep on growing, there'll be a need to purchase more servers, which is very, very expensive. But with cloud, there's something called scalability. You can scale to as many servers according to the traffic you're receiving, according to the people that you have. And when traffic reduces, you can also reduce the servers and scale down. And that's done automatically. So I think the cloud is the future. And I'm just glad to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Juma. I see our speaker. Okay. Our speaker is ready. We'll go to the nitty-gritties of the cloud. So Samson Onzala, welcome. We are really hoping to learn so much from you. The floor is yours.
Okay, hi guys. Can you confirm my mic is I'm audible?
Hi, Samson. You're really audible.
Okay, great. So hi guys. I'm really happy to be doing this. Actually, what happened a few minutes ago is something that does not happen in the cloud. Just as I was about to share my screen, my laptop went off unexpectedly. So that's something that is that can be the responsibility of a cloud provider in case of it could have really affected the cloud fully. So so I'm Samson Barasa, as Awad has mentioned. I'm a co-founder at Resource Cloud Academy, but also a cloud engineer, and also I'm just a cloud enthusiast. Also pursuing telecommunication and information engineering in my 4th year, and I'm so happy about what the cloud has, just learning the cloud, where the cloud has gotten me to at this early stage of my life. That's why we actually started this, just so that we can come up together, because this thing is really going to be big. So on to the matters of the day. What the cloud, what and why? So guys, let's just imagine for a moment, imagine at a time where you are in a country, unaishi Bungoma, and then now you've planted some, or you've sold your cow, you want now to come and start a life in Nairobi. You've gotten a little small starting capital, but you want to come and start an IT firm in Nairobi. But as you come to Nairobi, you're thinking, you just can't come and buy a house. You just can't come and what will be the most? Okay. Right. Thank you for meeting. So let's say you have that small amount that you want to come and start a business. But as you come, you have to think of other things. You have to think of where you will live. You have to think of how you will feed yourself before your business starts operating. So you really have a lot of questions. But one thing for sure is that with that income, you'll come and you'll not buy a house. You'll definitely rent, which will be the cheaper option, because before you get on your toes and maybe save until you get your own. So that's as we move through these slides, I want us to keep this analogy in mind, that so that we can really relate to what I'm trying to present. So the same way you have so many questions, that's the same way an IT person, maybe a small IT firm. Let me just use a small IT firm at the moment, but it also applies to big firms. Okay, so a small IT firm is thinking about improving in scaling their business. But at the back of the mind, the CEO is thinking, I still have a small team size. Do I have the enough manpower to do this? Or is not even sure about the demand of the product. So he could be doing it, but still it's not so sure that it will bring in the income. And then there are also financial constraints, or you are thinking that person, he wants to start his business, to scale his business, but he's thinking, will I really have visibility into my business operations? How will I ensure my equipment is secure? I don't have the money to buy enterprise grade firewalls. I don't have the money to purchase the top of like enterprise grade routers and switches. So, and then at the end of it, this guy thinks, I don't think even this will work. But then that's where the cloud comes in to unblock these roadblocks. Okay. So what is the cloud? The cloud is just ideally a big building filled with computers. Okay, I'm sure that sounds abstract, but that's actually what the cloud is. It's just a big building filled with computers. But then the question will be, what does these computers do? What do these computers do? In most cases, that big building filled with computers has the computers run applications, the computers store data, the computers host websites, but then who owns these buildings? So the people who own these buildings are the ones we call them cloud providers. These are the likes of AWS, Amazon, AWS, Azure, Microsoft, that is Oracle, Alibaba. So these are the guys who own this building. So as these guys think about how start to dig into the cloud to see how it will help with business, the first point is like understanding what really what the cloud is. And as of now, we know that the cloud is, let's just assume, let's just have that abstract knowledge. Assume even if you know a lot, let's just assume it's just a big building filled with computers. These computers have different functions. Some store data, host websites, others run applications, and what have you. And then, so long before this cloud computing came into play, let's say, for example, before you could send an email, what you really needed to do was purchase a server. You could go and purchase a server, then install an operating system on that server, then make a few configurations on it, and then after that, that's when you can now access email. You'll be accessing email via that server. Like there was no other way to do it. But then after cloud computing came into play, so cloud computing has actually been in existence for a very long time. So after it came into play, what happened was the likes of Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail, they took that responsibility. They could now create the server, install the operating system, make the configurations, and then for you just come and access your email. So that's how the cloud has changed things. And you can imagine, like purchasing a server, it really takes it's not a one. You just don't go and buy it directly. You order. It takes around, let's say, a month or let's say a minimum of 2 weeks to come. Then installing the OS, you have to license that operating system. Making the configuration is another hassle, and then before you access those emails. And imagine this was just email alone. There are other services such as web services, databases, YouTube. Yes, YouTube. Like YouTube is just a great example, because assume that you could, ideally, if YouTube was not in existence, if you wanted to share video content with people, what you will do is go purchase a server, install an operating system, then make the configurations again, and then you upload your video on that server, then now people can access through the network. But now, like you can imagine how hard that could be, and then you're trying to reach a lot of people. So you have to take into account the traffic that will be coming into that server. Like and let's say one day your building, God forbid, but your building just collapses. So your server and your YouTube videos are gone. But then so what YouTube does is YouTube is just a classic example of cloud computing, because what you do, you just upload your video to the cloud provider, then the cloud provider now takes care of everything else, connections to that video, everything. Like for you just pay, and then so the cloud provider will just earn from the ads that come through your YouTube video. So that's just a classic example of how things were working long before cloud computing and how they are at the moment. So why do people now opt for cloud computing? Okay, guys, I'm sure you're all also thinking of something after that explanation. One thing is cost. The cost, there's no doubt that the cost of for example, buying that email server, installing the operating system, doing all the configuration, like it will really cost you a lot rather than just going to Gmail, creating an account, and you're up and running. And then the cost of also, in terms of a guy who's the IT person we started with, who wants to start to scale the business, but is thinking, is there really, do I have enough manpower? Do I have enough resources? Am I really sure of the demand so that I can invest? So this person can opt to go to the cloud, to use cloud computing just to evade those costs. Because what cloud computing does, it's essentially you are renting some. It's like the person, as we alluded earlier, you're coming from you are coming from a country, you want to start a life in Nairobi. So what you do, you rent a house. So this guy is trying to start an IT firm. What he does, instead of buying servers, employing security guards, this guy, what he does, he just comes and rents that server. He rents it. Then the landlord, who is the cloud provider, is responsible for the security of that server, the maintenance of that server, making sure the server is on always. So it will really save the person a lot of money. And then people are also cloud computing is also being adopted because of its scalability. Like you can grow just as your demand needs, according to your demands. In that, let's say you're not sure about that your product will be adopted in the market, so you just start slow, and rather than buying a big server, employing a lot of people, and you're not sure if this thing will go into market, what you do is you go to the cloud provider, just rent a little space that is enough for you at that time, and then as your usage grows, you move to you grow your base. Just like as your income grows, you move to a bigger house. Like, so the cloud gives you scalability. It's like the rental aspect of the rent in the housing industry. Now you rent, you increase your house, you go to a bigger house as your salary increases. But now in the IT side, you move to a bigger server. You access more resources as your business increases, or as the demand of your business increases. And then people are also adopting cloud because of its reliability. Assume that, okay, just the incident that I said, maybe your building goes down or power goes off at your place. That will be, it will mean that, and maybe you have your YouTube videos being hosted there. So that will mean that these videos won't be accessible to people, right? So in that case, but when you come to the cloud, this cloud provider has really invested in this. Like, that is his primary business. He has redundant power supplies. Make sure that at any time your YouTube videos are in maybe 3 or more servers. So in case even one goes down, which is highly unlikely, you will still be accessing the internet. You'll build your workload will still be accessible. So, and then people are also moving to cloud, considering cloud because of its security. Security, how is the cloud secure? So let's just take an example of a small business. A small business does not have anytime you talk about security, it rings a bell of the cost. Like in the short time I've been in the corporate world, whenever a customer mentions security, he should be ready he should not be even ready to negotiate about prices, because with the security you have to just spend. But think of a small business; it doesn't have the luxury of spending a lot on its security. But again, it needs the security. So what it does, it goes to a cloud provider. The cloud provider has the top of top-notch the security appliances. So by just using the cloud, you're sure that your workload is safe, everything your environment is okay. And then the speed and agility, in that you can go, okay, let me just give an analogy of, let's say, a supermarket. A supermarket will opt to rent a space by the roadside rather than just going to, even if they have the ability to purchase land somewhere in an interior place, but they will rent by the roadside so that they can access the market faster. So that's just the way you can view cloud computing. You go to when you put, the cloud provider already has access through the world. So if you want, for example, it's a website, you want to host a website. If you want it to be accessible as fast as possible, you go to a person who already has the access, who already can access those people, right? And then lastly, I still emphasize on budget and resource constraints, because that's the main reason people are cloud computing is being considered. All right. And then, so cloud computing has different models. When discussing cloud computing, you can use these two models. There's the deployment model and the service model. For the deployment model, that is where we talk of now public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. So when you talk of public cloud, just as written there, it's just like a passenger bus. Public cloud, think of a passenger bus. You just go to the it's a public. It can be accessed by anyone. So public cloud, this is where you now set up the cloud providers. For example, AWS, Microsoft Azure. These are the public cloud vendors. You can now, if you locate all your workloads there, that will mean you are using the public cloud deployment model. But then let's assume that these are you are going to work. You have a number of options to use. You can use the bus, you can use a private car, or you can use an Uber or a Bolt. When you use a private car, everything is on you. Like it's your car, you bought it, you're maintaining it. So in the IT world or in the cloud world, a private cloud is you've bought your servers, you've bought everything, you're maintaining it on your environment, on your facility. So it's entirely it belongs to you. And then now an Uber, for example, you've chosen to go to work with an Uber. That is just you trying to have the best of both sides. You don't have your own car, but you want to also enjoy the luxury of at least being in a private space. So that's what hybrid cloud is. Hybrid cloud is a combination of public and private cloud. Essentially the best of both worlds. You want to enjoy the privacy, but also you want to enjoy the agility, the scalability, the cost efficiency that the cloud comes with. Then now, when you talk of the service models is now, you assume you are now already in the cloud, you are adopting the cloud. So which service are you using? So in this, as we talk about service model, I would like to use just this pizza analogy, pizza as a service. Assume that there are many options of getting pizza. You can decide to cook for yourself. You can decide to order. You can decide to just go and dine out there. So in the same way, just as in the service, these different services, IaaS is infrastructure as a service, PaaS is platform as a service, SaaS is software as a service. So I want to use the pizza as a service analogy to explain these three things. So when you talk about infrastructure as a service, okay, so initially, before the cloud, what you will do is you will go, just as we've been saying, you will go buy a server, buy everything, like connect your network, set up everything afresh. That is now the traditional way of doing things, But as you go to the cloud, you can decide on what to adopt the infrastructure as a service deployment model. In the pizza world, this would ideally mean, instead of milking your own cow, by creating your own cheese, like doing everything from scratch, you go buy milk, do everything, and then you just, what you are responsible for providing is just the fire, the oven, electric, gas, and the dining table. But then, so on the cloud side, the infrastructure as a service, you will buy, as we have said, traditionally you will buy you are responsible for networking, storage, servers, virtualization. But here, in the infrastructure as a service model in the cloud provider will be responsible for the virtualization, servers, storage, networking. You just come in, install an operating system, run, and if it's an application you're running, you install the runtime and be responsible for the data and application. And then if we talk about platform as a service, in the pizza world, we, instead of just buying the pizza and the tomato sauce, everything, the ingredients, you avoid buying them, and also you don't want to light your fire, you don't want to use your oven, so you just order that pizza. You order that pizza, then what you're responsible for is just buying a soda and setting up the dining table. In the cloud world, platform as a service, you have your service provider now responsible will come and install the operating system for you, the runtime, maintain it. If it's upgrading, it's anything, what you're responsible for is just coming in, placing your data on it, like running your applications on it, and taking care of your data, like ensuring the security of your data and so forth. And then when you talk about software as a service, in the pizza world, you don't even, so your work is just to eat. Just go out there and then you go to Pizza Inn and wait at the table for the food to come. In the cloud computing world, software as a service, everything has been built for you. So you don't even need to install an application on your phone. For example, Gmail, or let me say Google Docs, the one for creating Google Forms. You just go on the browser, access it. You don't need to install an application for you to access it. So in this case, the service provider has bundled up everything. You don't even care where the application is running. Your work is just to use it. Just the same way, in the pizza world, your work is just to eat. But now you just pay for what you eat, right? Mm-hmm. And then, so who are these cloud providers? The cloud providers, the major ones are AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google, and also Oracle Cloud. And then I'm sure you will be wondering, we've just said what is in it for the businesses, that they will enjoy the cost efficiency, they will enjoy the scalability, the reliability. But what about us, people who want now to learn this cloud? So for us, one thing we are securing the future. Another thing, we are differentiating ourselves. So I've been telling a number of people, like, if you just, for example, if you come to JKUAT, you assemble like 20 people, throw a stone, it will probably land on a person who knows how to program or is good in networks. But the probability of landing on a person who's good in cloud is so low. And what are we looking for? We are looking to get into, after we finish school, we want to get into the industry right away, right? We are trying to be different, have a different skill set from what majority of the people have. If for example, you're good in networks, adding cloud on top of it will really make you valuable in the job market. So that's how we are differentiating ourselves. And then we also want to build insanely great careers. So the cloud, in the cloud, you can really build a great career there. You can be a cloud architect, you can be an enterprise architect, you can be a cloud engineer. Okay, the difference between a cloud engineer and a cloud architect, maybe that will come later on as we continue with this interacting more. But these are just the options that you can have. And this is a market that has not yet been tapped as much. And also, after building insanely great careers, definitely we will live happily ever after. Yeah, so that's just it about cloud computing, what it is and why cloud computing, both on the side of the businesses and on our side. So I hope that was informative. And And I hope that at least you've learned something, and if you are new to cloud, you know what it entails. If you have been there, you have a different angle to what from what you've been knowing. Yeah. So thank you. Back to your word.
Thank you, Samson. That was really informative. So I have a question. I saw that you didn't welcome us for any question, but I have one question. On a certain slide, you mentioned different cloud vendors. I saw you had 4. There was Microsoft Azure, there was AWS, there was Oracle. I can't remember that. You had Google. So my question is,
Yeah, sure.
what criteria do you use to choose a cloud vendor? For example, I want to move to the cloud. So what factors do I put in for me to choose either AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google, or Oracle? If you can go to the nitty-gritties of that.
Okay. So if I get your question, you're asking in terms of maybe you want to create a solution on a cloud solution, right? So you want to choose which cloud to go with.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's more of it's not a trivial question, because you have to think about many factors. One is the cost.
Yeah.
The cost, if you think about, for example, if it's just Windows servers, Microsoft servers are cheaper, and then in Microsoft Azure, Windows servers are cheaper because Windows is for Microsoft. And then in terms of you want the Oracle, because he's a small player, they are trying to catch up with the rest. They are also they're also a little cheaper, and aside from unlike these other cloud providers, Oracle have a constant price for all regions. Like these cloud providers operate in regions. We know they operate in regions. So like for these AWS, Azure, Google, for example, they have different prices for different regions. But Oracle will just charge you for the same. They'll charge you the same for across all the regions. And then, for example, if you're doing something that is heavy on analytics, on insights or such, Google Cloud will be your best option, because it has really heavy analytics services. We all know Google has been a player in the they're the owner of the web, essentially. So they've been analyzing data ever since. So they are good at it. And then, so what I'm trying to mean is that there are a lot of services that are a lot of factors that come into play when choosing a cloud provider. But that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
And then just allow me to mention on the side of now as we try to scale up, which cloud provider do you want to learn first?
Yes.
In that case, my thought is like first, the mentality should be you're learning the cloud concepts, not a cloud vendor. Because if you learn the cloud, storage in AWS will be the same as storage in Azure, just with a different name. Storage will be the same as storage in Google. So in that case, you can just learn you can do a picky punchy, pick on one cloud, then now just learn the cloud. Okay.
So it basically depends on what you want.
Yeah, it boils down to what you want.
Thank you. So awesome presentation there. I have some few key takeaways that I've gotten from this talk today. So basically, we were covering what and why the cloud, and through the presentation, what I learned, what the cloud is, just a big company, a big building containing computers and servers, and then you just rent from them depending on what you want. So that's basically what the cloud is. I've also learned a few on why the cloud. So you had things like security, reliability, scalability, and cost. So for cost, basically you pay for just what you use, and you have the scalability, you just stop guessing capacity. So if you just decide to build your own data center and you provision your own servers and storage and everything, you will not keep in mind the scalability aspect of it. For example, you have your website and you don't know the traffic. So you can estimate to have maybe 2 million requests in a day, and then you end up having only 10 requests in a day. So you would have provisioned a very big capacity, but at the end of the day, you just use a little of it. So we have also things like reliability and security. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, Samson. And I also love the descriptive examples that you gave. For example, the pizza analogy. That was so easy for us to grasp the concepts of the cloud, the different deployment models. And I also liked the car analogy, where it was really so granular for us to understand. And also the example for one coming from the upcountry and decide to live in Nairobi. You just don't buy a house in Nairobi, you rent a house. That's basically what the cloud offers and provides you. So thank you, Samson, for the
A question, maybe to interrupt you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so Sam, I have this scenario. We have this person is taking something away from IT related. Is very passionate about something that is taking. Okay, but this person is a little bit confused whether to do cloud. So from your current position that you are sitting, how will you advise, or what's your take on this? You have a person doing, suppose is a course not relating to IT, but he can give a try to cloud, but is not that sure whether to give a try or not. So for your case, what's your take on that?
Okay, thank you, Albert. Let me just put on my camera so you can see my seating. And now that you've asked from my seating, how do I sit? Okay, so ideally, so my thought is, and from what, not even my thought, like from what I've really interacted with, I've had the pleasure of being in the IT industry and in the cloud for the past 1 year, the cloud specifically, and through that time, I've met a guy who has practiced law for 7 years, and then he changed careers, switched careers, started doing cloud, and then but now 2 years later he could tell you that it's the best decision he made. I've also, one of my main mentors did nursing as up to masters, and then after finishing the masters in nursing, he got interested in cloud, started cloud, and now he's a CEO of a company called Go Cloud. He's worked in Cisco, he has worked in AWS, he's worked from being a nurse. And also another third example, I've also met a guy who was a plumber. I just took on cloud, started learning. The good thing about this thing is that about cloud is that you just purely, no school will teach you this. Like even if you try to enroll in an institution that really teaches cloud, at the end of the day, it's your effort. So for anyone, I would really advise, like for anyone who's even in a different career path, thinking about trying out cloud, like don't even think twice, just go for it, because the opportunities are amazing. They just come. Another good thing is that as soon as you can show what you can do, opportunities will just open up. So if you're thinking of that, someone is thinking about that, is not in an IT-related career, don't waste no more time. Thanks.
Okay, that's good.
Answered. So thank you, guys. Thank you for taking your time off to join Cloud Thursday today. So part of our core services at Resource Cloud Academy is improving our presentation skills, and we are off the journey. So for Thursdays, we'll be having special sessions at 9:15 to 10. So if you think you have something you can deliver to us, if you think that you have something important we can learn from you, or not important, something that we can just learn from you, you're welcome. You can hit me up. You can hit up Sam, Juma, ZP, or Albert. And before we conclude our session, we also have a very honorable mention. The founder, not of the Resource Cloud Academy, but the founder of Resource. His name is Emmanuel Ngeno. So Ngeno, you can just unmute and greet people.